Hi, I'm Liz Whiteacre. This is English 101, and today we're going to focus on changing the world through writing and engagement. In this course, we're going to spend time thinking about how we can each take altruistic actions or actions that help others, and what we're going to have to learn how to do in order to meet those goals. When we talk about changing the world, it's a really big umbrella topic, and we can think about that in baby steps. So your project this term might focus on how you might change the life of one person. It could focus on our campus community. It could focus on what you might do in your career in the future, or a service project that you are interested in. You might think about how you could take advantage of our college's resources to do something abroad. You could even think about something way in the future that will take a lot of time to prepare, so getting started now will be really helpful. This week, we have a lot of objectives. In addition to getting oriented to the class, we're going to think about rhetorical concepts and how they are going to be used as a touchstone for our class. We'll also think about different ways we can engage with, collect, and store information so that we can stay organized this term as we figure out how we can take our action. We'll also think about the ways we collect information and how we process that information. So that way, as researchers, writers, communicating to our audience, we are coming up with as effective as possible process that you can use in English 101, as well as all of your other classes, as well as the different things you're going to have to achieve in your career. This week, you're going to have an overview of rhetorical situations in our text. I wanted to give a little bit of a preview in this lecture for you. Aristotle is that dude from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. You may know him for his concepts of pathos, logos, and ethos from other classes that you've taken in the past. What I really appreciate about Aristotle's Rhetorical Triangle is that it's something that has withstood time. These are elements that we as writers still use to make decisions day and day and day. All of the different things from, should I tweet this? Or how do I tell my grandma I can't come this weekend because I'd rather be doing something else? To trying to get ready for a job interview, working out a dispute with someone. It might even be as trivial as asking somebody if they want to do something with you and you've not done something together before. And all the way to your different academic projects, your chemistry report, your 20-page research paper. There will be some. You can bet on that. And maybe even just a quick writing that you're doing in class. If you take a look over here on the right-hand side of the page, kind of moving my cursor around, the rhetorical triangle is called that because there are three main components. We need to have a speaker or writer, right? The person who is starting the tweet, right? Over here, we need to have an audience, someone who's going to receive the message that the communicator wants to send. And then we also have the subject of that message. What do we want to try and tell someone? You'll notice that the triangle isn't just lines. There's space in the inside and there's space on all of the outside of the triangle, kind of pushing in on each one of those different points. The inside we like to think about is the communicator, writer, speaker's intention. Why are we trying to communicate this idea to someone else? And then on the outside, we have what's called here genre or context. And that's, what are we choosing to use to send the message? Is a tweet going to be better than an email or a phone call or a text or a blog, right? A formal report. And then also everything that's happening around that. If you want to, let's say, get in touch with one of your professors as you're starting the term to ask a question and you're not quite sure how you should go about it because it's unclear from the syllabus if you should use email or if you should use messages in ACE, and you want to make a really great impression, but you're a little embarrassed because you feel like your question might be a little basic, right? How are you going to contact that person? Right? And then how are you going to present yourself in that message to get the request for information you need while also impressing that person? So these things are very complex, but they're also decisions that you already have a lot of expertise at. You're already good at this because you have made so many mistakes in the past, but also you've had great successes in the past. And we use that practice and what we know about what's worked and what hasn't to help us determine what could work well for our next communication. So let's take a moment to think about our purpose. Why, right? Why do we need to send this message? It could be because we need to teach someone something. It could be that we're requesting information from someone. We might be writing just to compliment, right? We might have an idea that we want to share and see what other people think about it. We might have just found a really funny meme that made us laugh and we want to share joy with other people's lives. And so the intention is just to entertain or make someone smile. The purpose of your communication is going to really affect who you're going to send it to, how you're going to send it. And so if you're not sure what you want to say or what you're doing, like, I don't know why I'm emailing her, take a moment to stop and think about, why am I doing this? What do I need from this exchange? Because if you're not sure, then you may set yourself up for miscommunication or not getting what you need or having someone be confused, etc. Another key component we really want to focus on a lot this term, and we're going to have some projects that are taking us back and forth between different types of rhetorical situations, from very academic audiences to a more popular blog audience, just to help us practice toggling back and forth. But our audience is, who are we sharing the information with? And we have to take into account that idea of context. What do they already know? Right? What do they need to know? And what's the best way to help them understand your message? Right? You may be moving in with someone for the first time. Perhaps you're coming back to campus and you don't quite know what that person you're about to live with's preferences are. When do they go to bed? When do they like to get up? Do they pick their underwear up off the floor? Is that going to be a problem? Right? So you don't have a lot of information about the context. You know that they're coming in and they don't know much about you. So the way you approach that person might be very different than how you approach your sibling. Hey, we're going to have to go here on vacation and live in this tiny room together, and you better not, right? How you lay down the law with your little brother or sister might be different than how you're approaching another peer who you're about to spend the next 8 months living with. Context is that adhesive that's gluing everything together, right? If you've already received a message from that potential roommate, right, you might have something to start to go off. Okay, they seem really nice. They seem very forward. They've already let me know what some of their preferences are. They seem very blasé and not to care about things. And that might affect my response to that person. I always like to think about context. How many of you have a pet? I have cats and chickens, but maybe you have a dog, and usually in the classroom, people raise their hand more frequently on that than cats and chickens. So let's go with dog for this example. Now, your dog probably lets you know when he or she needs to go out to use the restroom or wants to go out on a walk, right? And you want to think about those nonverbal and verbal cues. The bark that tells you, hey, a stranger's come to the door, is different than your dog's bark to let you know that they're super, super excited to see you when you come in, right? There's a different bark when they're hungry. There's a different bark when you've been on your cell or your computer just not paying attention to them for too long and they want some snuggles. They might go to the door to bark if they need to go outside to use the restroom, or maybe they do something else. right? They might just sit there, or maybe there's a bell on the door that they ring. So depending on what time of day it is, right? Depending on what you've just been doing with your dog, that might help you pick up on your dog's unique cues to be able to figure out what your dog's communicating with you in that moment, right? So the same thing happens all the time with text, right? Mom is so mad, right? And all of a sudden you start running through your head, okay, there are 6 different things I can think of that mom might be mad about, right? And then you start kind of process of elimination, figuring out what that could be so that you can proactively respond. Another thing to think about is culture. That can be a part of context. If you take a look at the slide there on your screen, I thought this was kind of funny, but alternatives to handshakes, right? And we've got the wave and the namaste. So depending on your background, if you're big into yoga, you might find the namaste pretty funny, right? The East Coast wave, if you're from the East Coast, probably that would be something like, oh yeah, I know, I've seen that. And if you don't, then maybe you don't know. And it falls flat, you're not quite sure. Why would that be amusing to anyone, right? So depending on people's backgrounds, their cultures, the language they use, how old they are, maybe even their gender, they're going to respond differently to you in different situations. The method, right? So this is your delivery mode. What's the best way to make sure your audience receives and understands your message? It could be a lot of different things. And so figuring that out is really helpful. In this class, if you have a real quick question for me, a text might be a great way to get a yes or no answer. If you have a more complex question about an assignment, maybe email would be better because it gives me a little bit more space to respond. And if you feel very confused, I don't know, what am I doing? Maybe a face-to-face Zoom conversation where I can be very responsive as you're thinking out loud, thinking things through. That might get you the information you need even more quickly so that you can move forward with your academic goal. So that's what we mean by method. What's the best way? Sometimes text might not be the best way to break up with someone, right? Or just a social media post that they see. Maybe a phone call or face-to-face, those sorts of things would be more appropriate in that situation, given the context of your relationship. So figuring things out, in our text, you're going to be introduced to a lot of different ways to critically read, to take notes, to think about the sources of information, where it's coming from, and how you might want to use it based on that writer's or that person's rhetorical situation. You'll also be exploring different critical reading techniques and thinking about how do you make use of the skills that you're bringing into this class. How do you also explore the way you take notes in a chemistry lecture might be a little bit different than the way you take notes in a music lecture or even for English 101. So it's not always one size fits all. This term, as you are starting your collegiate career, you'll probably find that different strategies work well for different rhetorical situations or different classes, different types of situations. We will take all of those different things we're thinking about and learning and starting to experience and begin to use them in concert with each other as we move forward through the class. So do think a lot about the skills you're coming into the class with, how you take notes, how you already go through research, what's your go-to for your research process. Are you somebody who just hits Google really quick? Well, that can be helpful in a lot of situations. Probably it's not going to be the best strategy to use in your history class that's only requiring peer-reviewed journals, right? So you're going to have to learn to pivot and flex and figure things out depending on what your professors are asking of you. Looking ahead, my notes here, make sure that you participate in the class's orientation. We also have a diagnostic essay. This is a programmatic requirement. Everybody in English 101 is writing a very short essay this week. I'm asking you to let us know, me know, what your favorite thing of the moment is. And if you check out the welcome discussion, which is a follow-up on that writing assignment, you'll see what my favorite thing is right now this summer. Just finished season 2. Please, no spoilers for me or anybody else if you are a fan of the series. You're going to be taking your diagnostic essay, that topic, and creating a pitch flyer, letting us know what is so awesome about it, just using pictures and some links to the internet and some shorter phrases. So you're not just taking your essay and pasting it into a flyer. You are designing something new for a different rhetorical situation where you're letting your classmates know something cool that they can check out. We also have some conversation taking place in that welcome discussion. These are people who aren't just going through the same stuff you are. They are also people who you are going to be sharing your work with, and you are going to be reading their work and helping them out during peer review. So this is a great way to introduce yourself to other people and learn a little bit about them before you're sitting down and reading perhaps their proposal for their research project. And next week, we are going to start thinking about how we can be responsible researchers in college so that we can lay a strong foundation for the rest of the term and really the college career. We'll also be engaging with those critical reading, note-taking, integrating source material, and essay writing, and using MLA format, just so that we can get a sense of where you're at and what we need to learn moving forward as you become more experienced, sophisticated, and advanced in your composition skills. I hope that you enjoy a great week, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.